Haya Nawa, quick rope. This is a tie down submission using a rope. Probably the most important thing that you need other than the rope is a sharp knife. Hopefully you won't need it, but this is for safety. You are going to tie someone up, their hands and ankles, and have a rope going around their throat, which will potentially strangle them. It can be a complicated knot, and if someone starts, losing consciousness or loses consciousness accidentally, or have pain in their shoulder or hips or whatever while they're getting tied up, and you don't have time to untie them, you want the knife to make sure to cut the rope to free them quickly. I'm not exactly sure how long the rope should be. The rope that I'm using today is 18 feet, and that's approximately the right number. I don't think you'll need more than 20 feet. 15 feet might be a little short. It kind of depends on how you're going to do your tying. There's more than one way to do this. I'm going to give one basic example, and then you can make changes from there. Also, the width of the rope, it's a pretty solid width of a rope. It's about, the diameter of my finger, my index finger. And I have a relatively soft rope because it is going to be rubbing across people's skin and across people's neck. And you're also going to need to hold it yourself. It slides in your hand. You want to make sure you're not getting rope burn. The only knot that I'm going to tie is I'm going to tie one knot on the very end, just so that when I'm done, I have a handle, something to hold on to, especially if I have a very short rope at the end and I can't wrap it around my hand for tightness. So I'll get a knot at the end just in case I need a handle. That's the only knot that's going to be in this rope. I don't know all the history around samurais and Japanese history, but my understanding is this is meant for tying up samurai, and mostly the police were generally of a lower class than samurai, and it was considered disrespectful to use a knot to tie up someone of the samurai class. So this is where you tie someone up without using a knot. It can be used in any other situation, but I think that's the historical background of why there's not a knot in the part where you're tying someone up. So what I do need to use, well, I will actually use a second knot on the other end, but it's going to be a slip knot. And what I mean by that is I need a way to tie the rope to itself in such a way that it will slide open and closed without having to untie it. So I'll simply wrap around, back through, and get myself a little knot. Excuse me. I'm not a rope tying expert here, but it's a relatively simple knot. You're just basically tying the rope to itself. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then make sure that it can slide. I'm going to be wrapping this hoop around someone's wrist. Wrap it in and then pull it tight. And then from there, I'm going to be winding it around different parts of their body. I'm going to go around both wrists, the neck, and one ankle. I've seen different versions of this where it's just one wrist and one ankle, both wrists and both ankles, one wrist and two ankles. You can do it in different ways. The version that I use and that I was taught is both wrists, one ankle, and the neck. I can imagine many different situations on how you would get into this. I think usually the person's going to be submissive to begin with. Maybe you have them at gun or some kind of a weapon point. Maybe they're unconscious and you want to tie them up before they regain consciousness. Whatever it is. But the way we practice it from kata is from an overhead strike. It could also theoretically be from a punch, but I'm going to use Kote Shigarami. I'm not going to go into all the details of that. I have a separate video, Suigetsukan Kote Shigarami, for how to get into that technique. But once I use Kote Shigarami, get someone down on the ground and have them submitted, then I'm going to use that position to begin the technique. A couple ways you can do the rope. The simplest I find is I wind it up, I put it inside my gi, and then I'm going to actually put the loop around one of my wrists. You could also gather it up inside your gi and slide it down the sleeve to your hand. I feel like that just allows for more problems if it gets caught up in your gi or you're going to burn your armpit or something. So the simplest is I just put it around my wrist, and then I'm going to make loops of the rope until I get it gathered up. Then I'll put the entire thing inside my gi, except for the part that's around my wrist. Then I'm going to do Kote Shigarami. Someone's going to come in with an overhead strike. I'm going to block, take them down to the ground. Behind me, just for the sake of visualization, and you can do the same thing to give you something to kind of tie it up with. I just took a gi, I rolled up a towel and put it in each leg for the leg. I put a mobility tool, and I wrapped a gi around for the neck, and I didn't put anything in the sleeves. I'll just use the sleeves as the wrists. So you can imagine I've taken someone down into Kote Shigarami. I'm going to use the variation where I'm using my knee as opposed to my foot. I'm going to grab the arm on the close side, pull it towards me, and then I've already got the loop over my wrist, and I'm just going to drop it over their wrist and then pull it tight. From here, I'm going to shift my knees. I'm resting the arms behind them on my outside knee, and I'm going to shift my inside knee from the shoulder to the back of the pelvis, basically doing a knee ride, uke-gatame face down, and then my other leg's going to come in, kind of pin the elbow near the body. So I'm holding the arm pulled back behind them with pressure behind the elbow on my outside knee to keep the arm locked in, and I don't need to use my hands. I'm pinning them with my shin on the belt line, with the inside knee, my outside knee is behind the elbow, keeping the arm locked behind them. From here, I'm going to take the rope and I'm going to go around the neck twice. Go for the far side, come around one loop, two loops. I don't want to pull it real tight because you want a little bit of slack in here. I don't necessarily want them to lose consciousness, but I want them to, if they struggle, it will create more pressure on the neck. But I do want a little bit of slack in there because I'm going to tie it around the ankle and the leg, and as the arm and leg move, it's going to put more pressure on the neck. So don't do it real tight to begin with. From here, I'm going to go down to the opposite leg. You can either scoop up the leg, or if they're not being generous and giving it to you, punch them in the back of the thigh, kind of getting that little leg come up and catch. Pull down, again, go around the back side, go around once, go around twice. Make sure it's snug, and I'm going to gather up the other wrist. Again, if they're not being generous, punch them in the back of the tricep to weaken it. Bring the wrist around behind the back, and I'm going to go around twice. Once, twice, and then I'm bringing the wrists together so that they're like this, right next to each other. I'm going to finish this off by going over both wrists and underneath once. Excuse me, there's no hands there. But if there were the hands there, it wouldn't slip out. I'm going to go over once and underneath. Go over twice, underneath, and then it's nice and taut. This is nice if there's a little bit of slack in there and have some extra rope, that knot will stay in there and kind of create a loop for you, which is a nice handle. If you don't have enough rope and it comes out and it's shorter, that's why you want that little knot at the end, so you at least have something to hold on to. This ended up giving me a little bit extra rope than I would normally have because there's not much resistance here with an actual arm and shoulder, but you can see that's about the approximate length. And then when they're done, any movement that they do, any pulling of the arms to try to relax their shoulders or relaxing the knee is going to tighten everything up and put more pressure around the neck to start to strangle them. The only way to keep them strangling themselves is to try to actually stay in position. You keep their arms behind their back and their leg up. And then that's it. Again, if there's any problems, that's what the knife is for. Quickly cut them out if you don't want to strangle them, particularly with your training partner. Otherwise, you're finished. And then you want to undo the technique. There's no knots, so it's just very easy to unwrap everything. Unwrap, 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 unwrap. Open up that slip knot. and you're finished. You're ready to go again. You want to practice a second time. Wind it up. Back inside your gi with the loop over your wrist. Ready for another attempt. Good luck practicing Haya Nawa at home.